Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the R&D podcast. I am your host, Rachel.
And I'm Dahlia.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about whose league are you in? The chickens or the eagles? What do
For some
mean?
reason, I thought you were going to say the chickens or the rooster. I was like, what? Chickens or the eagles?
We were talking about roosters yesterday. So I use this analogy a lot because I'll have certain friends, like my beautiful friend here, right, Delia, and I'll say, okay, I see certain females and I go, wow, that's an eagle, right? But then sometimes you'll have an eagle who maybe she knows she's an eagle but doesn't always want, I don't know, whatever the case is, and she'll hang out with the chickens.
Are you saying I hang out with chickens?
I didn't say you specifically,
You said,
okay?
well, like my friend
My
right
beautiful
here.
friends,
Okay,
I've seen my beautiful friends who are eagles, and they'll once in a while, they know that they're eagle, right? They have eagle energy, but then they're also humble and they might walk with the chickens, and then they get so surprised when the chicken does chicken stuff, or the chicken goes clucking away with other chickens, and then she's like, why would he be with her, or why would he do this when he has me? So I'm being funny and using eagle versus chickens.
No. I totally get that, and I guess it's eagles fly with eagles. So I totally get that analogy. I've heard it so many times, and I think oftentimes you have maybe the benefit of the doubt, like you know what, this person's awesome, amazing, this, that, or the other, and sometimes you have to kind of test the waters in order to figure out where you belong, if that makes sense.
Is it like kiss several toads until you find your prince?
I mean, oftentimes it's unfortunate that you shouldn't be comparing the people that you've been with to the person that you're with, or the person that you aspire to be with. But unfortunately, you do those things where you're going to be having a little bit of the comparisons. If he's a gentleman, if he treats you right, if he's respectful, and all the things. And so you kind of get to gauge the different type of men that are out there, and you appreciate this about this person, but then you're like, that's not going to work. And oftentimes it's not that you want to go through people, but the only way to figure out what fits is to kind
go
of
down with the chickens.
No, not necessarily. No, God, no.
Because we're talking about guys that are like in your league, out of your league,
yes,
dating up, dating down,
yes,
right, or marrying up, marrying down,
yes,
right?
yes. No, and I'm not saying that you have to go down with chickens or try to fly up with eagles or anything like that per se, but I'm just saying, like, oftentimes people will date different types of people. I mean, maybe you're not really into this type of person, but you're like, you know what, I'm going to try something different. Because sometimes we think like we have a set standard of like, this is the way it's supposed to be. And sometimes it's the relationships that are very unlikely that sometimes happen that just click. And so it's like the one guy that you would never think, or the one girl that you would be like, I can't imagine, maybe 2 years ago, I would definitely, kind of not even go there. And it's not to say that you're better than anyone or anyone's better than you per se, but I think it's just understanding that in order for you to figure out what works, is that you do have to kind of, figure the things that are deal breakers that you do or do not like. And I think that you and I did this whole thing about a year ago where we did a list, because we were on a call with a coach, and he said, I want you to make a list of all the things that you want in a partner. And of course, it's easy. You go down the list and you could write 30 things on the top of your head, because you're like, he's got to be like this and like that, and like he needs to read my mind, and he's a fortune teller, and like all the things. And then it's like, but then write a list about the qualities of what you bring.
What do you bring?
And so the thing is that, it's easy for us to think highly of ourselves. However, someone might look at certain things that you do as flaws. And someone might say, you know what, I love her imperfections. And so the only real way to figure out where you are in your life and who you want to date is to try to go out there and just say, okay, this didn't work, and that's okay. Let's just get back. Let's get back on the bike, so to speak.
So I recently got to know Ty Lopez, okay? And he's an interesting guy. And so he did an event with us for CEO, and Dahlia was there, and he was really interesting. We're convinced that he's like psychic. Yeah, okay?
He's like psychic.
We're convinced, so if he sees us, you can't,
definitely
do not try to deny it with us.
You read 10,000 books and that it's because of the books. It's like,
we see you, see us, see you, Mr. Lopez. And so anyways, he invited us back to an event the week after in LA, and we went in Beverly Hills, and we went to his event, and he said something, because that event was like his event, so it had his followers, and it was a lot of guys, young guys, middle-aged guys and everything, but very bro-ish. And he went around the room and he asked all the guys how they rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. Do you think you're a 5? You think you're a 10? You think you're an 8? So he had all these guys answering the question, and I was very intrigued, sitting in the front row, and I was looking back to see like
you were not an 8.
Like, you better knock
like you're about 6.
So he said women will sometimes give themselves higher points. I'm sorry, lower points. Like like I'm an 8, and then the guy's like, you're literally a 10. And he said, well, the guys would do the opposite. So anyways, he was not wrong, because some of these guys were giving themselves like 8s, and we were all like, try again, more like 5. But the point of the story is that he said that men specifically, maybe even women too, but men specifically will only date comfortably 2 notches up or 2 notches down of what they consider themselves to be. So if they consider themselves an 8, they'll go for the 10. If they consider themselves an 8, they'll settle for the 6. Okay? And so when we speak about this topic about what league are you in, is he out of your league? Are you out of his league? Because what ends up happening, and he was really adamant about this, is that if you are settling for someone that you're out of their league, you're never going to bring them up to your league, right? That person's always going to be faced with some insecurities. You're always going to be sort of lowering yourself, so to speak, to make them feel more comfortable or secure, and it's not conducive to a healthy relationship. So he was saying it's very important to date within your league, marry within your league if possible. He was also adding that with women, because he reads countless studies, a dude is like a sponge, right? A data sponge. And that one of the studies were saying that women need, in order to truly like be at the most optimal level in a relationship, they need a man who is definitely 2 clicks above them at least, and not too far ahead, because sometimes if the guy is too far ahead in intelligence or any other thing, then or attractiveness or whatever, then she begins to feel like she's in the shadows, or she's like under his thumb, and then it could become an unbalanced relationship. I can see that, where he doesn't value her and things like that. So I thought it was a very fascinating thing. And it's like asking yourself, am I a beautiful woman who brings a lot to the table, so to speak, and yet I went and chose a guy that not a lot of girls would be into, or that I know is out of my league because I feel like it's safer. I think if you're someone who does that because you go, he's a little ugly, people don't really pay attention to him, or he's a little chubby, or he's not this flashy guy, I'm going to go with him because he's safer. He agrees, and we've talked about this. That's a dangerous move.
Well, so here's the kicker to that. So with what you're saying, there are women usually will look at the woman the man has on his arm. So if she's an 8 or a 10, then he's going to draw 8s or 10s if that's what's on his arm. Why? Because the 8 or 10 is looking at her being with him, and what does he have? That she's with him. So instantaneously, by the way, that becomes magnetic for a man to have a woman like that. That's number 1. Number 2, I would like to know how he gauges this. Is this just simply monetary? Because in my opinion, I always say this, like, should you, hit it big, or like you have that one rich uncle that gives you all the money, does that then now elevate you to be a 10? And so to me, I feel like sometimes, we gauge people based on, what they drive, where they live, how they live, what they do. And sometimes people have a lot of money, but they have no core values. So to me, it's like, so what are you gauging this off of? Is it just money? Because you can have a man that's rich, but doesn't respect you, has no core values, is going to try to sleep with the freaking housekeeper. So what good does it do you to be with someone like that? For me, I just feel like, what is this based and what is the consensus on this?
So he was asking them just based on overall who they are as a guy, if they're fit, if they're handsome, if they're successful, if they're striving for, you know what I mean? So he just said, take whatever all your measurements are and just give yourself a number. So he wasn't even stuck on money. But I think that with guys, because they're meant to be the providers in many cases and everything, and the protectors, it's like, are they more alpha? Do they make money? And things like that. So he was not giving them the criteria. He just said, what do you think you are? What are the criteria? And then when they were giving giving him their number, he's like, what are you basing it on? Because, he's gathering, he's like Alexa. He's scanning and assessing and learning the whole time.
Gathering data.
Yeah, and it was a really fascinating thing. So he instantly said, if you see yourself as a 6, do not go for someone that's too far up ahead of you, no matter how much money you make. So that was an interesting thing. He even gave a scenario of this. He said, look at me. He's like, I'm not the biggest dude. You saw him. He's small, kind of small dude. And he's not the wealthiest compared to some of the people he hangs out with. But he considers himself a really strong contender. He says, I'm in LA at the time. He goes, and I meet this girl, absolute stunner, 10. He's like really off the charts. He's like absolutely gorgeous. I start dating her. He goes, and I'm confident about the whole thing. He says she went out with some girlfriends for brunch, and I was at the house. He said, when I tell you she got home, she was taking a shower or whatever, that he had a knock at the door. And he goes to the door, and he's this 6'8" NBA player that he recognized.
Oh, snap.
And he's like, can I help you? And he goes, yeah, there's this girl, and I saw her, she was with her friends, and she came to this house, and I just want to see if she's home.
Ooh.
And he's like, what the hell, dude? He's like, so he's sitting there at his stature,
small
he's a small dude,
compared to 6'8",
and he's not like athletic. And,
yeah.
At the time, now he's more fit. At the time he wasn't. And, he's just a wealthy dude. And he realized, man, what am I doing going for a 10? Like, I'm not an 8.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a 6, at best. And he said it, he goes, so why am I going for a 10? He's like, I had no business going for a 10 because this guy who is literally a 10, has no problem following her home and telling me her 5 or 6. Let her know I came to the house.
I definitely think that it's a blessing and a curse when you're with someone, like that, someone that's a 10, right? So then I think you have to be accepting of the blessing and the curse, meaning it's a blessing that you got the 10, but the curse is NBA players are going to be following her, right? Yes. So most of the time, people want the best of the best, and that goes with anything that you do, whether that's buying a car, the way that you live, what you eat, you name it, the things that you're doing. I think that you want the best of the best, but there's a blessing and a curse to it when it comes to who you choose. And so you have to be very secure with yourself know that, it doesn't matter. If she goes out, she's coming back to me. And if she's even a 5 and she's going out, she might be going out with this guy and that guy and that guy and that guy, and she's coming back to you, but she's already hit all these different people. And that's a little difficult.
And
too.
That's if you're one of the Fab 15 watching, right? We're giving you that perspective. But if you're a woman watching this and you're sitting there saying, gosh, am I an eagle, right? But I'm dwelling with the chickens because I feel like it's safer. You have to understand that the guys that are out, that are below your league, and I hate to say the word below, but if you have a guy that you are way out of his league, and everybody and their mother freaking tells you, it's really obvious, you have to understand that guy is still a guy. Yeah. And he's still going to make mistakes, and he's still going to do dumb things, and he's still going to possibly break your heart. And then you're going to be ultra offended and confused because you think that you're a gift from God to this guy. This guy should be worshiping you. This guy should be so freaking lucky that you even took the time to look his way. That's not how it works. It's literally not how it works, because it's he's having to worry about who, who's coming at him, who's trying to jack his, his 10. But most guys understand that they're still just a guy, and they're willing to go flirt with the girl that's a 5 because he's only a 7. You see where I'm going with it? Yeah. And then everyone's confused. You got this 10 on your arm, but you're flirting with the girl that's a 5. Yeah. That's kind of how that starts to happen.
But I think that if a man's disrespectful, he's going to flirt with the number 1, with the 1, with the 2, which is respectfully, we talk about Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, respectfully, not to be rude, but if you saw, he's a 10, right?
Is he?
He's an 8. If you look at his career, okay. Yeah. Oh, maybe an 8. I'm not saying, to me, I don't find him attractive per se, but he's done very well for himself. He's a successful man in his own right. And then he decides to sleep with the housekeeper and have a kid.
I wonder if he doesn't see himself as an 8 or a 10 because, and the reason I'm saying this is because he married Maria Shriver. I'm not here to criticize any woman, right? But she was not a model. She never had like a heyday. There was never a time when you go, well, she's a looker. He was very.
But she's prettier than
that wasn't the case.
The
like
Diana
ever,
girl
really.
that he slept with.
Well, I think if you're comparing, but I think if you look at who Maria was, that wasn't who she wasn't a sexy woman. She came from the Kennedys, and so for him, it was very strategic. He came to this country to accomplish certain things. He loved politics, and so he went for it. He had an opportunity to be with someone in the highest level of politics. So even in that case, he wasn't going for what he could get as far as like the hottest chick in the room. You know, which we know he probably could have because he was Mr. Olympia and he was an actor and all this kind of stuff. So even then, he didn't go on that. He kind of went, you can say, maybe below margin on his scale, according to Tai Lopez. You know what I mean?
With Maria Shriver. And then what happened?
So then it's no surprise. What I'm trying to say is, it's no surprise that then he went that route. It's almost like a beautiful woman who's willing to date ugly guys. It's like there's that meme, right, that goes around that says, "Oh my God, not even the ugly ones are like not even the ugly. She's not even safe around the ugly ones," you know. And so I think the guys have that too.
Yeah, I can see that.
I know that I was involved with someone that a lot of the exes were just, oh man, we used to make fun of them. And one day I saw him with a car, you know, he was carpooling with some ladies from work, and they were all at this level. Okay, we'll say like
threes.
You know, okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Okay,
Dr.
single digits,
number
like
3?
in the low single digits.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to criticize, but somebody was standing next to me in his family, and he goes, ooh, and I said, oh God, did you see them? It's fine. Right, because I was like fit and I was good at the time, and he goes, no, like those are the ones you have to watch out for because look at his track record. Like, yeah, I changed his stats, but like the track record's track record.
Were they saying that they got like moves like Jagger maybe?
Got Mick Jagger freaking moves.
They got moves like Jagger. Is that what they're saying?
So you got to realize that people do date according to their confidence levels. Yes. But I found the Tai Lopez study really interesting. I don't know what study he read or whatever because he reads so much. But he really ran around the room with these guys, and he said, do not. If you only go 2 clicks up, don't go beyond that. You're not going to be able to handle it. So, women, if you're a beautiful woman and you date a guy that he's several clicks below you, you're going to have a conversation with him that says you have to understand beauty is a currency. I have good looks. Like I am fit. I have whatever you have, right, as that makes you beautiful. It might be just your beautiful smile. Whatever it is that you radiate, that you attract a lot of the opposite sex, you attract opportunities and things like that. A lot of kindness comes your way. You have to make sure your partner understands that's not your problem. That partner needs to understand beauty is a currency. This is what it looks like when you're with the eagles. Okay.
Yeah.
Eagles recognize eagles.
Right.
And it attracts a lot of attention.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, like, again, I think it goes back to what I'm saying. To be with someone that's good looking, a man or a female, it's a blessing and a curse, because at the end of the day, even if he's not the looker or she's not the looker, I promise you, people gauge you based on who you're with. And so if you are, scaled up, then they're going to look at your partner and they're going to see like, why is she with him? And so I think at the end of the day, you have to trust whoever you're with, regardless of what it is. I mean, because I don't care where you are in a scale. If you don't trust a person, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if he's very wealthy, if he's flying, private jets. And he's telling you, honey, like, I promise you, and he's FaceTiming you. The girl might be on the other freaking seat. And I'm not saying that all men operate in this regard, but I'm saying, like, if a person really wants to go out of his way to show you that he respects you and you trust him, he's gonna go out of his way to make sure that you know that. And again, I stress this enough time and time again. We're vibrational beings. We know when something's off. Yeah. We know when someone kissed you differently, the way that he holds you, the way he talks to you, the way you have sex, you name it. We just know that's a connection that we can feel the shift. And so, in my opinion, I think that if there's no trust, then you really have no foundation. If you don't respect the person, no foundation. So regardless of where you are in the scale, I mean, that's out the window, in my opinion, if you don't have those, those key elements,
Just don't aim low because you think it's safer. You know, I think that was probably the biggest message that I wanted to get across with this episode. Like, don't aim low because you think it's safer, because there is no safe place. Well, the guy either respects you, right, and he has morals, or he just doesn't. Whether he's a 2 or a 20, like, it doesn't matter.
And I think it matters also, by the way, and I think what you're saying is correct. But there is a someone that I know, and this particular person that she wound up marrying, in my opinion, wasn't not anywhere near her league, just because I knew what she wanted in her life. And so her best friend at the time says, he's the nicest guy. You'd be a fool not to marry him. Oh. And then so in her eyes, she's like, yeah, I'd be a fool not to marry him. And I remember looking at her and thinking, that's not going to work, because I already know where she's at on a game plan and vision and things that she wants versus who this guy was. And okay, so nice is cool, but nice isn't going to pay the bills, and nice isn't going to pay the rent, and nice isn't, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's not to say that you got to base everything on money, but you also have to take all the things into consideration. Is he just as ambitious as I am? Does he want a girl like I do? Or is he cool where he's at and I'm cool where we're at? Yeah. So I think that you have to have those conversations. So when she walked down the aisle, I knew it was only a matter of time before that wasn't going to work. And sure enough, that's how it happened. And I think it was because, she had someone in her ear talking about, you'd be a fool not to do it. Yeah. And, and I think that sometimes we have to be a little bit more, I wouldn't say strategic, but you really have to think about making a life-changing decision like that, not just because someone's in your ear telling you you'd be a fool.
God gives you the answers. If you have to ask the question, chances are you already have the answer. Like, right. He put it in you to desire a man who maybe builds houses. Like, you're attracted to construction workers. There might be something there because you're attracted to strength, maybe fitness, and maybe somebody that's really great with his hands, and stuff like that. So you got to listen to those things. Don't listen to everyone around you. Like Delia's saying, just because there's this guy over here and he's so sweet. Like, no, you got to listen to your intuition. God put it in you to sort of have a beacon that's gonna, it's like this thing's like beeping like in the ocean until you find that counterpart. And you go, this is it. He owns a contracting company, or maybe he doesn't own the company. Maybe he just is a construction worker, but you're gonna be like, this is it. Like, because he put it in you already. For some people, they're attracted to the corporate types and stuff like that. They love a guy in a suit. Like, if there's something that you see a man in a suit and you go, I don't know what it is, it's probably that little beacon in you that's saying that future person that he's chosen for you probably like lives his life in the suit.
And there's women that like the workman boots because they like
in a uniform,
or the uniform. They like the guys that are working out in the freeways. Like, I know a few people in my inner circle that's like their thing. To me, I mean, respectfully, I'm like, all right, whatever floats your boat.
Call it Caltrans.
Okay, that's cool, but I'm not here to judge that. I think at the end of the day, it's like, you only get a shot every morning, every day, every morning you get a shot at life, and that person has to be that person that makes you feel like you can conquer all things, and he's your partner. And I do believe that most people want the 1%ers, right? But do you want what comes with the 1%ers? In my opinion, right? So
especially because the girl boss energy. We were talking off camera about, originally the title of this was going to be more about the girl boss. Right. What ends up happening is women are becoming more resourceful and making their own money and really reaching great heights in entrepreneurship and corporate America, media, and all that. All of a sudden, there's this weird narrative that just because, I don't know if it's weird, but there's this narrative that, you now make all this money, now you got to go find a guy that also makes all that money. It may be that God put that beacon in you to still go for that guy that like is a construction worker. Like, who knows, right? Who's to say? So I think that, I've learned to remove money as a measurement of success from my life. And I'm thinking in this conversation, this context, removing money from this scale of 1 to 10 and going, if I take the money away, what do I have? Does he have morals? Does he come from a good family? Does he respect me? Does he help around?
And that's exactly the point.
Does he come in and solve problems for me? Do I feel safe with him? Problems? Yeah, do I feel safe with him when I'm in his arms or whatever? Or when there's other very attractive females around, does he handle himself very well? It's checking all of those boxes, and then if he has a great career, cherry on top.
Yeah. For sure. And that's exactly the point, because at the end of the day, you can get the 1%er that doesn't respect you. Yeah, you're flying private, but the guy's trying to screw the lady serving the drinks. Yeah. And so to me, I think that's living in hostility, and I don't I think there's a fine line between, you know, wanting something and then also understanding that there might be a price to pay for it, and are you willing to pay the price?
And
so
how
that's
often
important.
and how often in marriage, to all the married women, it's so often in your marriage you're gonna have people in your ear saying, "Oh my God, if I had a woman like you, if I had a wife like you, like how'd you end up with him? Like I don't even know, like he doesn't deserve you." You're gonna hear men saying it to you. You're gonna hear women saying it to you, like, "Oh girl, like I don't even know why you're with this dude." Blah 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 blah. And then you start to get this inflated sense that like you're
better than him,
are better than your partner. And let me tell you, it's a very dangerous place to be.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, in previous episodes I say it's like you got to watch who's around you, and you got to watch where their advice is coming from, because again, oftentimes people are always going to inflate you to be like you're the best thing since sliced bread, and oh my God, he's so lucky, and at the end of the day, you have to understand that in a marriage and a partnership, there's always going to be, it's kind of like a you're teeter-tottering in between, you know, you're up here and he's down here, and then you guys have to balance each other in order for you guys to get that going, and so I think it really matters who you're talking to, because if they don't like him, they're going to trash him. And it's like the ringing of the bell. You can't unring the bell once someone says something negative. And so you got to protect whatever people are saying. And, you know, for me, I got to tell you, in the past, people are like, he's this, he's that, he's this. And I was like, I don't care. Please don't talk bad about him.
Yeah.
This is what I've chosen. Leave me alone. I respect what you're saying. I don't want to hear it. Yeah. And so I think sometimes we have to kind of take our power back with people that want to poison our minds about certain people around us. And sometimes we're going to learn the hard way. You know, afterwards you're like, see, that's what I was saying. That's why I didn't like him for you. And then you're like, okay, then now you get this aha moment, but you're not going to know unless you do it. So you have to trust your instincts, and maybe these are the lessons you got to go through in order to keep it moving, to say, okay, this is it. It's kind of like the Three Little Bears, right? Where the girl's like trying all the beds, all the beds and stuff, and that's what happens sometimes, you know. You have to see what works for you.
And of course, like it's always, we tell you, pray on it. Pray on it. If you're a married woman and you're starting to feel like you have a superiority complex in your marriage over your husband, you need to pray on that, because that is not a good spirit energy to have. So you need to really just say, God, help remind me of why I fell in love with this man. Like, always. Humble me. Like, let me see just the immense gratitude that I need to have for this person.
Yes.
And then just get into that energy, because to sit there and live with someone that you just think is beneath you, it's going to become impossible to respect him.
Oh my gosh.
And men, as we mentioned in other episodes, they really, really need to be respected. They'd rather be respected than loved, even.
I agree.
So hopefully if
that helps.
Hopefully that will help. But if you are a single woman out there, click up, 2 clicks up or two clicks down,
and not clack clack clack.
Okay, don't walk with the chickens unless you're a chicken. Nothing
That's right.
against chickens.
Yeah,
Cheers.
that's it. Cheers.